Peace and blessings, family. It's time for me to check in again for a little bit with another edition of Spiritual Food for Thought. I hope all is well in your relationship with the Creator, family. As I continue to say, it should be our number one concern, and that's to know ourselves and understand ourselves through the eyes of our Creator. If we don't have any understanding of self, family, we're in big trouble. And we're likely to be deceived and had by the darkness and the lies of this world. And it's admonished to us that we should not be conformed to the image of this world, but we need to be changed and transformed, by the renewing of our minds. And that renewal of our mind is only possible, by the grace and the understanding and the power of our Creator. This is why, one of the reasons that, as I said, I continue to make these videos, family, because I'm trying to admonish you as my brothers and sisters that it's each of our responsibility to nurture, to seek after, to search after the knowledge and the understanding of the mind of our Creator. Because if we ain't living life with a purpose and understanding, then we're being led to our own destruction as we continue to be made subject to the lies of this existence. And as I've said, family, understanding the reality that we're in the realm of the permissive will of our Creator, And when I say permissive, what I'm saying is it's the things that He has to allow, And even though that the Creator is divine, and He's holy, Now, understanding, as I said, divine means one, Holiness means order, Divine order, So, without these things, this is the world that we got going on, because it's the realm of death. As I said, death came into this existence as man said yes to the spirit of pride, which is the spirit of the devil, or Hasatan, whatever you want to call it. Because that's that self-awareness. As Hasatan had a desire to rule this world, the only way he could come into that rulership is that he had to deceive us in our flesh, which are the vessels of that these powers of darkness have to possess in order to have its way. And so the bottom line is we got to understand this thing, family, that this is why we need to be made spiritually alive and one with our Creator, because until we do, family, this world will continue to head toward its own destruction, And so the bottom line is this is why I keep trying to admonish you as the created being that you are, as my brother and sister. We all have to seek the Creator for ourselves, because until we seek our Creator, family, we can't know ourselves. And if we don't know ourselves, we can't comply to what the Creator truly desires. And that's for all of us to know our purpose and our place, so that we could serve the Creator in spirit and in truth, as we're able to love one another, because we love ourselves in the divine love and humility of our Creator. So then we understand that as we rule ourselves, our purpose for this rulership, family, is so we could be ourselves. Not for the purpose of controlling or ruling others, because the only one the Creator meant for us to control is ourselves. But until we understand ourselves under the Spirit's divine love, we can't control ourselves. So we're a slave to our senses. Thus, this is the world as we know it in this existence where it's on the verge of destruction. So this is why we must be born again. We must have our minds be made one with the perfect will of our Creator. Okay? I mean, that's what it really comes down to. And we need to understand that we are created beings. And, ultimately it's the spirit of pride that causes us to forget that. So we live a life where we're constantly trying to gratify these senses instead of knowing what the Creator had in mind. Because ultimately our senses have to be brought under the rulership of the spiritual desires of our Creator so we can truly serve Him as the created beings we are. Okay? So, with that said, before I go on, as I said, I'm not no teacher. I'm not no kind of title trying to tell you what to do or what to believe or how to believe or convince you of anything. I'm just throwing some thoughts out there for you to consider. And if it matters to you, you take these things to the Creator to try to understand what the Creator is saying about these things, if they make sense or not. Because it's also just to provoke you to thought that you seek the Creator for yourself and allow the Creator to manifest those things from within that it's going to take for each of us to walk out our path to ultimately the completion of our creation process, so that we ultimately will truly become children of the Most High Power, operating under the spirit of divine love that will make us one with Him, each other, our fellow creatures, and Mother Earth, and we brought us all forth from, such is the kingdom of heaven. So, what I want to touch on is this, bringing about this reality, okay? I've been hearing so much talk about, worshiping these gods and different gods and false gods and all of these things. And as I've been saying lately, family, gods are things that we conjure up in our own mind so that we could justify our existence in this reality that we're in right now of our creation process. Okay, ultimately, we got to understand that we are caught up in a spirit of man worship, because that's all these gods that we've created to justify our existence and being separated from the divine will of our Creator. Okay, one of the things that it talked about, whereas we would be caught up in a spirit where we worship the creation versus the Creator, okay? And as I said, worship is simply what we do and the motivation behind what we do. In this world, we walk in a realm of whatever it takes to survive in this world. I did a video a while back pointing out the reality that surviving ain't living. Because, see, we've been brainwashed into settling for being a part of a world that, out of all the creatures that the Father created, we're the only ones that have to pay to have a spot. And that's totally unnatural. You know what I'm saying? And so we got to be delivered from this mindset as the Father shows us what He truly desired. And through the understanding of the Spirit, that it will cause us to walk in a way that's going to bring us to a place where that's not going to be necessary anymore, because it's not the will of the Father. Okay? This is a result of the spirit of our own pride that causes us to be selfish in nature. So we go around claiming things and doing this and saying this is mine and all this, and if you want this, then you got to pay me something. So, otherwise, if I can't give it to you if you don't pay me for it. As simple as that. It's an evil and it's abomination to the sight of the Creator, because this is not the spirit of his divine love. So understand the reality, family, that our belief system has been passed down through what? Men. And as I said, whether it's our parents, whether it's the schools that we've been indoctrinated into, the teachings of religions and churches and whatever, and the propaganda that we're constantly fed through the media, and all of these things has shaped our belief system. And we don't understand the reality, family. So as that being true, what's the source of all this? Or the source of it is the powers of darkness, but what I mean is that this material source of why we are the way we are. And it's the spirit of man worship. Because it's the teachings of men that causes us to continue to walk in the spirit of slavery, where we are actually denied, okay, what we need to find ourselves and his divine purpose for each of us, okay? So, proof that we are in the spirit of man worship. What do? We worship men, whether they are alive or dead. You know what I'm saying? Because when you stop and look at, ultimately, it comes from the teachings of others who have actually passed on. Okay? One of the things I hear a lot of today is about ancestor worship. Okay? People talking to the spirits of their ancestors and all this stuff, talking to them and telling them things and guiding them through this life and all this old kind of stuff. Well, the reality is, ancestor worship is man worship. It's just another form of man worship. See, if the things that we are taught and told by men, whether it's men that's alive or men that's dead. See, generally, most of the books that you read is men giving their spin of their experience. Okay? And so the bottom line is, then in our flesh, our belief system comes based off of the teachings and traditions of men. Okay? And so, like I said, one of the biggest things I hear now, people always talk about worshiping your ancestors. Seek after your ancestors. Man, how can you seek after a created being to know who you are and your purpose and place? Because last time I checked, the bottom line is our ancestors was flawed. So that's why we flawed. Because we've been flawed by their teachings and their traditions and all of these things. So the bottom line is, it comes down to, it's a spirit of man worship. And ancestor worship is man worship. Okay? And it ain't no getting around that. The bottom line is, the only way, family, that we can find ourselves to be the best us we could be, as the Creator takes us through this process of our creation, family, is that we have to have a relationship with the Creator. Okay? And as we have this relationship with the Creator, family, it delivers us from that spirit of man worship. Because how can I find myself and be the best Mike I could be, not being like no other Mike or anybody else, but being the best me I could be? As the Father takes me through this creation process, family, I'm not going to find that through nobody else but my Creator from within. Family, it's the same thing with you. You can't know his will or be the best you could be in none of them things unless you got a relationship and you continue in your relationship with the Creator. You ain't going to get that from nobody else's leadership and guidance. Okay? So the thing we got to understand, see, ancestor worship is another form of man worship. It is man worship. Okay? And basically, family, even when we seek after or the it's a word, I'm sorry, I'm struggling with, seek to be under, okay, another person's influence. Well, that's what we're seeking to come into a divine truth. That's man worship as well. Anything where our lives have been shaped and formed by the experiences of others, it's not us being true to ourselves. See, until we true to our Creator, family, we can't be true to ourselves. This is what I'm saying, family. The more we are made spiritually alive to the understanding and the mind of our Creator, family, this is what frees us from being under the spirit of man worship. Okay? Because, in other words, it's a saying, one man's poison is another man's treasure. Or, you know, that thing about one man's trash is another man's treasure. But the reality is, family, this is why we must come to understand the Creator's will for us to know ourselves, because we are influenced and driven to seek after things that other people value. You know what I'm saying? But value is really in the eye of the beholder, or beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Okay? And really, I said value because in reality, family, things that really are of value, that's true beauty. Because in our flesh, we become caught up in things we deem as beautiful. And we want to possess those things because it'll make us feel better about ourselves. Okay? But these are the things that the spirit of man worship causes us to pursue and to do. And so the thing is, this is what I'm saying, family. It doesn't make sense to me. Why would we so much value the opinion of our ancestors to come to know ourselves or understand what path are we supposed to take? Because to me, the crowd to somebody else that's flawed to give you the understanding you need to overcome what you're dealing with, that don't make sense to me. The bottom line is, who's better to equip you with what you need to do or what you need to know in these things than your Heavenly Father that's inside of you? See, because the best others could do ultimately is to confirm a divine truth that the Creator had in you already that didn't have nothing to do with them. Okay, so the bottom line is, this is why we need to all seek the divine understanding of our Creator to deliver us from the spirit that causes us to worship man and deify man. Because all it comes down to is self-worship. Because if it lifts up our flesh and our self-awareness being separated from the divine will of the Creator, family, then what is that? See, it's the spirit of pride that's ultimately going to lead us to our own destruction. You know, like I said, this is a scripture that says, own wickedness is going to correct us. Okay, and so as we grow in the spirit of pride, we're operating in a spirit of wickedness because it's in opposition to the divine love and understanding of our Creator that brings forth the oneness of his kingdom. And so the bottom line is we got to understand, man, is that's why I said, in our flesh, we are one mind with the serpent. Because it was spoken and prophesied that the serpent would go on his belly and eat dust all the days of his existence. So where did we come from in our flesh? We came from the dust of the ground. And so as the thing that's doing the consuming, the thing that's being consumed is dead, okay? And it's being made one with the thing that's doing the consuming. Okay, so the bottom line is the spirit of darkness is the spirit of pride that consumes us to make us have a desire to rule the world around us or make the world what we think that it's supposed to be based on our understanding. You know what I'm saying? As fallen man. Okay, so the bottom line is we have to be delivered from that spirit of pride that causes us to be separated from the Creator, which then, as we are walking in this separation, this is what causes us to worship man. So it causes us to worship men, whether they dead or alive. And we continue to live because we slaves to that spirit of man worship, because ultimately it causes us to deify ourselves, to have our own way. You know what I'm saying? In a way that's contrary to the divine will of the Creator, because pride can get you so high to the point that you don't even believe in a divine Creator. And to me, that's just absolute insanity, because if you didn't create yourself, you didn't choose to come into this world, and you didn't choose your parents and none of this, none of your experiences and all this old kind of stuff. So you're not in control of anything. So obviously you are a created being. And ultimately, as a created being, family, our number one desire should to be to know and understand the will of our Creator. But as we're not spiritually alive, that doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is the pleasing of our senses. So the bottom line is, see, ancestor worship will cause people to believe what they want to believe too. So they get to pick and choose this off this person and that person and all that to justify doing what they do, to gratify their flesh. And then people pass that belief down to their children and their children, and it just keeps going on and on. But ultimately, it just comes down being under the spirit of man worship. And so, as long as we continue to worship ourselves as man, this world's headed for its own its destruction, because unfortunately it's been under our rule for this. But I understand the reason it makes sense to me, because it had to be allowed for a season, because ultimately the Creator is going to prove that it was only meant for him to rule his creation. It was only meant for us as man to rule over ourselves as individuals, to know our purpose and our place, so we could glorify our Creator ultimately as we walk in the spirit of divine love toward each other in all of his creation. You know what I'm saying? We got to be delivered from the spirit of death that causes us to worship ourselves as the created beings that we are. Period. Because that's what causes us to do that. It's the spirit of death. As I said, the spirit of death is being in opposition to the perfect will of our Creator. Under the spirit of divine love. That's what death is. Anything that's under that subjection and that way of thinking and that way of existence is under the spirit of death. And that's what we got to be delivered from. Okay? Ultimately, so that we can come, as we begin to understand what the kingdom is, then we can begin to embrace it. But if our belief of what the kingdom of heaven is based on these stupid ass lies that they done told us all these years about laying on clouds and playing harps all day and dressed in white gowns and just floating around and all that kind of stuff, all these myths, man, we need to understand divine truth. You know, in the kingdom of heaven, think about this. If our minds is made pure, why we need gowns? Why we need white robes? Because if our minds is pure and we understand, why is man the only creature that we just had this fixation that we need to clothes and all of these things? Yeah, in this world we need it. But in the world to come, we won't need those things because our minds will be pure, because all the other creatures that the Father created don't wear clothes. We the only ones, just like we the only ones that got to pay to have a spot to exist in this world. Because that's satanic, family. It shouldn't even be this way. So the reality is, family, as the Father clean our minds up and our hearts up and stuff, then whatever form we evolve into, whatever at that time, we won't need to cover up, because we'll be pure in heart. So we'll be able to be in that natural form, whatever that is, when that time comes. Because, you know, change is coming, family. The purpose for the Creator allowing this world to be in the darkness that it's been and under the spirit of death is coming to the end. And so the bottom line is, He's establishing, bringing forth His divine truth in us that He's chosen as His children to come into this inheritance of what His kingdom is. Like I said, we haven't even understood what His kingdom is, yet we always talk about going to it. You know what I'm saying? The time for us believing things we don't understand is about done, family. And that's what the Father's doing. He's bringing forth His understanding as He expresses and brings forth His spirit of divine love in us that causes us to make sense of the things of the kingdom. And as we continue to grow in our understanding of the things of the kingdom, family, the things of this world, we ain't going to be able to be a part of it no more. And ultimately, this world as we know it is going to come to an end as the Father establishes His kingdom on this earth, where we'll be all made one with Him, each other, our fellow creatures, and Mother Earth, and who brought us all forth from. That's what the kingdom of heaven is. So as we'll be able to absorb the spirit of eternal life, because the only real life there is eternal life. This is the realm of death that we exist in. Again, I say it one last time. It is, because death is anywhere that's separated from the divine will and order of our Creator. Okay? So, we got to understand, family, ancestor worship is man worship. And not only ancestors is passed on, but ancestors live in the spirit of all of us. So even those who are alive, this expressing the teachings and traditions of man worship is promoting that same thing. We should only worship our Creator in spirit and truth. And that's one of the things that the Son said. We should worship our Master, our Creator, and Him only shall we serve. How you going to serve Him? Worshiping men, the men around us that continue to build us up in a false sense of pride that distracts us from really what really matters. And that's understanding ourselves through the eyes of our Creator, because this is our only salvation. as we're able to be ourselves and what the Creator desires us to be the best us we could be, so we could serve others around us in the spirit of divine love. That's what ultimately the kingdom's coming to. And that's the only thing that really matters, because everything else is about to pass away and be done away with. So, with that said, I'm just saying this one last time, then I'm done. But remember, brothers and sisters, ancestor worship is man worship. And we ain't supposed to worship no man, but only worship our Creator. Okay? Any other created being, we ain't supposed to worship. And as I said, worship is doing right, what we do. But it's only possible for us to do right through the revelation of the Spirit of our Creator. Okay, so with that said, family, until next time, I hope I said something that gives you something to consider and think about. And I pray that the Most High keep you and watch out over you and bless you and meet your every need as long as you continue to seek Him for yourself. So, with that said, family, till next time, I'll say one love and peace.